£825 for the benefit of unpaid specials. One member was against it because it said it would open the floodgates from others wanting to supplement their incomes. But specials, as Councillor Wootton has said, really are special. As he told the Cabinet, what other unpaid volunteer do we ask to stop a suspect vehicle at 2 o'clock in the morning, not knowing who or what threat may be inside that vehicle? One special I spoke to this week said when he responds to a 999 emergency call, for example, if he's the first on the scene at a fatal road accident, the public reaction is, thank goodness the police are here, from people who wouldn't even know and don't know whether he's a full-time paid officer or a special. He's already given over 40 hours of his spare time this month unpaid, helping to keep us all safe. He doesn't expect recognition, none of them do, but he did admit to feeling let down that given the chance to say thank you, the PCC's request had been rejected by our Cabinet. So I do support the change of heart and the U-turn that Councillor Stokes has announced today, despite him not actually giving any reasons for it. I urge everyone to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Trotter to speak, please? Sarah Trotter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Councillor Dilks. Like you say, we're looking forward now and in support. This subject is very close to my heart as a former serving Special Constable for 2 years based at Grantham for Lincolnshire Police, and now a retired police officer having served 20 years. I gave up most of my Friday, Saturday nights to form part of the van nighttime patrol in the times when most of us used to have a social life. My drive to do this was to gain experience and walk in the shoes of a full-time police officer. This led me to a very enjoyable full-time career in the police, retiring as a detective constable for the British Transport Police in 2017. And as Councillor Dilks spoke of, this included dealing with dangerous criminals, victims of serious crimes and fraud. Therefore, as members of South Kesteven District Council, we should be supporting those who gave up their free time to serve as special constables without financial gain. And this council tax deduction relief will go some way to encouraging those who wish to join and serve. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ashley Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions. First of all, I should say that I support the recommendations as presented by Councillor Stokes. However, I wonder, question one, could you please explain why the Cabinet voted for to deny the Special Constables the income in the first place, and what has brought around the change of mind in the last 2 weeks? What financial figures or what other circumstances have changed to persuade the entire Cabinet to U-turn on this issue? My second question is on page 50. We've got some figures relating to the council tax support scheme, and they mention the change proposals as at 21st of October 2020. I wonder why we don't have more up-to-date figures. Thank you.
Councillor Paul Wood, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes. Well, first of all, I welcome what Councillor Stokes has said about both items really that he's proposing. Obviously, the first one, the council tax support scheme, to keep it as it is. I fully support that, and I very much welcome what Councillor Stokes has said about special constables and actually including them, and also what Councillor Wootton has explained what special constables do. I mean, I'm aware that special constables don't get paid, so I think it's only right that we do include them. So I would encourage everybody to support both these items, and particularly my thanks go to Councillor Dilks, who obviously has raised this item about special constables and put a motion forward, which I assume now there'll be no need to pursue if we vote to include it in that item. But thank you to Councillor Dilks, and I hope everybody can support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woolley.
Thank you, Chairman. In my previous life, I spent a great deal of time in custody. Now, you make of that what you will. But I'm delighted that we as a council can show our appreciation towards those who volunteer to act as special constables. They help protect us in our community, and I fully support the recommendations put forward by Councillor Stokes this afternoon, and I hope that all my fellow councillors will support those recommendations too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good afternoon, members. Well, obviously, the current scheme that we're talking about in terms of the local council tax support scheme has been in place since April 2013 now, and the key criteria has remained unchanged as it has continued to serve our residents since then. So the cost of the scheme to date is approximately £7.2 million. And of course, the report does confirm that there has been an increase in claimant numbers since March, specifically the working age claimants, which can be attributed to the pandemic, sadly, and the impact on the economy. And modelling work that has been undertaken suggests that whilst the claimant numbers have stabilised, it is anticipated that claims will increase over the next year, which is why this scheme is so vital, and I urge members to support this. Well, obviously it has been mentioned that at the Cabinet meeting at the time a couple of weeks ago, the decision wasn't taken forward to support the special constables. And I think at the present time when we took that decision, it was really, there was a question mark as to what the impact and inclination of other councils were at the present time as to whether or not they were seeking to support the Police and Crime Commissioner. I am pleased that I think almost all of the districts, and I know the County Council is now supporting the scheme as well, which is why I'm also very pleased to support the scheme today. I think we all know and value the contribution that special constables do for our local areas, particularly as an elected member with a rural area alongside Rosemary. They do attend parish council meetings when we used to have them in person. Hopefully we can get back to that. And they do provide that key link between the police and the community. This initiative under the local council tax support scheme obviously will recognise that important role that they play. And on that basis, I believe that providing them with some financial support towards their council tax is the right thing to do. And I will be voting for the recommendations as put by Councillor Stokes today. Thank you.
Could I call on Councillor Stokes to answer some of the questions, please?
Well, this is not a Q&A session, this is a debate, but Richard Wiles will answer the question relating to page 50 if you go to him, and then I'll come and sum up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In terms of the modelling work that's been undertaken, I'll just draw attention to the report for members on 1.10 on page 37, and you'll see that the working age and the claimant numbers have been relatively constant, and since June 2020 around 4,900 for the working age claimants. So the modelling was actually undertaken at a point in October, but it represents the current position on the customer base at this point in time, and as I say, it's relatively stable at this position, so there was no need to constantly update the modelling. It's been relatively fixed since June, and we expect that to continue as long as furlough remains. Thank you.
Can we go back to Councillor Adam Stokes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So, yes, I'm delighted to put these two recommendations to the Council, but I also hope that this shows that when we do change a recommendation at item 2 that we have today, that we do listen, even though if the Cabinet have made the decision, we do listen before it's brought before Council. And it shows that we are a listening Cabinet and we're willing to take on board what people's opinions are. So I'd like to put those two to the vote. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, thank you. So if we take a vote, and it's been requested that we have a recorded vote.
Madam Chairman, if I can just respond there, it's been requested that we have a recorded vote, and if we go to the Constitution into 4.13.4 around the recorded vote, before the vote is taken, if 10 members present at the meeting demand this, the names of those councillors voting for and against the motion or amendment or abstaining from voting will be recorded and entered into the minutes. So therefore, are there other members in support of a recorded vote, please? If you could please let the confirm that in the chat function. Madam Chairman, I have had 5 members request for a recorded vote. Therefore, we haven't got the required numbers to agree to a required vote. Therefore, we return to the voting by exception. The proposal has been made by Councillor Adam Stokes with the inclusion of special constables. Therefore, if members could either abstain or vote against that in the chat function, all of the members that are in support of those proposals, you do not need to register your support in the chat box. So it's only abstaining or against the proposals, thank you, that have been proposed and seconded. Madam Chairman, I think we've only got 1 abstention, and therefore the vote is carried on agenda item 6. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we now go on to item number 7, which is now a report from the Cabinet Member for Commercial and Operations, Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley, regarding the statement of licensing policy. I would now like to invite Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley to present this report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and welcome members. Nice to see you all. I'm delighted to bring this report to you today. This is the statement of licensing policy which the Council has to review at least every 5 years. It feels like to me that this has been going through the pipework and the plumbing of democracy for several months now, and in fact I think it has. It's probably one of the most reviewed and consulted on pieces of paperwork that we've seen for some time. The Council, as a licensing authority, has a duty to review and republish its statement of policy at least every 5 years, and the team have put together a paper today which has been through various consultation processes, including the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which is interesting to note actually reviews and sets the policy for licensing, and the Licensing Committee implements that policy. It's been out to several consultations publicly, and has come back today and been through Cabinet previously, and now comes to you today with all of the amendments in place that have been made due to statutory requirements and changes in law. I believe the statement speaks for itself. I think it puts us in a great place moving forward, and I thoroughly look forward to going through this exactly same process again in 5 years' time. I'd like members to open the debate now, but I think Councillor Bosworth, as Chair of the Licensing Committee, would like to second this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Pam Bosworth?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, fine.
Right. Well, I think Peter and the team have put together an excellent policy. I know they've worked hard, and it doesn't seem possible that it's 5 years since we were looking at it before. But I'm very happy to second it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it looks to me, having just a quick look at it, it's been very well set out, sorted, and easy to read and understand. Can I call Councillor Bisnal Singh to start the debate?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do agree. Yes, it's been nicely well thought out and presented. However, one thing that I would like to mention, purely from the observation from the current difficult time that we are going through, especially in terms of public safety 1.2 and also sale of alcohol, I just wonder, how are the corner shops been exempted, or in a way that they are selling, they're opening from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning, quite a lot are open past the time when most of the other shops are closed, unless they are selling food items. But here I find I've been visited some of them a couple of times, about 11, between 10:30 to 11 o'clock. And I think the main thing that goes probably a bottle of wines, beer, and various other alcohol stuff. So Are there any way that we could take that into consideration when we got these situations very similar to that in future, that we could apply the closure to the corner shops as well?
Very much. Is there anybody else wishing to join in the debate? Right, so can I then go back to Councillor Mosley, and would you like to sum up?
Very briefly, I mean, I'd take on board Councillor Harris' business things comments. They're more related to actually the implementation of policy and individual cases. And so if he has issues with regards to that, then actually Anne-Marie and her team would be delighted to hear from him. I don't think there's much really to say on this. You know, I'm delighted to bring it to the Council today, and I would request full support, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And could the Chief Executive explain what we're doing again with the voting?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think I also like to add that this is one of the best quality reports that I've seen in a long time. So thank you certainly to the team in presenting of this report today. The proposal in front of us on agenda item 7 has been proposed and seconded. Therefore, voting by exception again. If you are against the recommendations laid out on page 51, please either put abstain or against in the chat function. If not, please, your vote will be taken as a positive. Thank you. Madam Chairman, we only have one abstention, therefore the vote is carried.
Thank you very much. Well done. Right, we now go on to agenda item 8, appointment of a temporary councillor to Poynton and Sempringham Parish Council. This is for the council to note the appointment of Dr. Peter Mosley as a temporary councillor to Poynton and Sempringham Parish Council. Members, this is an officer delegated decision taken by the Chief Executive, which is being brought to the attention of Council. If no one has any comments, then I will move on. It's for noting only. Is that somebody? Is it Naomi Page? Is she wanting to speak? No, that's right. Nobody wishes to speak. Right, so thank you very much. That will be sorted. Right, agenda item number 9, updates from the leader of the council, decisions made under urgency provisions. 9A sets out those decisions that were made under those provisions, and I invite the leader to make brief comment on these items, which are for noting only.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, obviously, we'll start on page 103 in terms of agenda item 9A. This was a decision made under the emergency provisions and delegated powers, obviously to seek approval for the payment of costs. And obviously, there is a pink paper behind this decision, which obviously members are able to see and have a copy of, should they wish. But there's nothing further I wish to add, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Shaheen, does it just go on? Shaheen, just go on.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, the paper is just for noting. If there are no further comments or questions, then you don't need to take a vote on it. You simply can move on to the next item on your agenda.
Thank you. So we're now on agenda item 10, members' open questions. Do we have anybody who have got any questions? And remember, you may ask only one question, no preamble or supplementary, which may be addressed to one of the following: the leader, cabinet members, the chairman and vice chairman, overview and scrutiny committees, and opposition group leaders. The session may last up to 45 minutes. Please indicate that you would like to ask a question by adding yourself to the microphone queue and wait until you are called to speak. So that's on chat. I expect you to put your question straight away. If you do not, I will direct you to move to your question. If after being instructed you do not move straight to your question, your microphone will be turned off and I will move to the next person in the queue. There is no right to reply, make statements or enter into debate. So I'll be calling on those members who have given prior notice that they wish to ask a question. So I've got Councillor Selby. Councillor Selby.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. First of all, my apologies for lateness today. I've been at a funeral today of the Grantham legend, Mr. Terry Shelburne. So my apologies for that. I've given the Leader of the Council advance notice of this question, Madam Chairman, as a matter of courtesy. I will try to keep it as short as possible. The EU settlement scheme was introduced in 2019 as a way for the European Union, European Economic Area and the Swiss citizens and their families to remain in the UK post-Brexit. It is free to apply to the scheme. However, the deadline for this scheme is the 30th of June 2021. And after this deadline, those who fail to apply may lose many of their rights in the UK. The Citizens Advice South Lincolnshire have created a team that is funded by the Home Office, offering free support and advice to clients applying to the EU settlement scheme. However, they are struggling greatly to attract clients, and in particular they are worried that they are missing potentially vulnerable clients. These people are our constituents and many of them play pivotal roles in our community. The pandemic and lockdown is one of the biggest reasons why the CAB are struggling to attract clients. Furthermore, the CAB cannot offer support at their offices as they are currently closed, which is impacting as a whole service. The CAB have tried numerous methods within the community to promote their services and the scheme, but they have struggled greatly. I would therefore like to ask if there is any assistance that the council can offer to help promote the CAB and the settlement scheme, highlight it to our councillors, which I'm doing now hopefully, and possibly include a small article in our news publications and any other ideas you may have. Thank you very much indeed in advance. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Selby, for the question. Obviously, our condolences also go to the family of Terry Shelburne as well. In relation to what you've just raised, so I'm very happy to pick this up with the communications team to see how we can raise the profile, particularly amongst our local area and our local residents. And I'll also speak with Councillor Annie Mason as the Cabinet Member for Communities and her team to see how we can also further promote and support the CAB and with the EU settlement scheme.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Paul Wood, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, my questions to Councillor Callum Cook, Leader of the Council. It's about scrutiny. Scrutiny is vitally important to the Council. I wonder if Councillor Cook would give us a review or tell us how the review is going in scrutiny, as I believe we're going to undertake scrutiny, which is vitally important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. So as members will remember, we obviously discussed this at our last meeting, and I can confirm that the Chief Exec has had contact with the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny via the LGA through the lead and response, a chap called Ian Parry. Emails have been exchanged to scope the review, so in terms of the effectiveness of the current system, opportunities for improvements, potential structure changes, engagement of members in the process, role of chairman of scrutiny committees, and the training requirements. And to know all of those are just a starter for 10 before any further conversation with members of this council. So our Chief Exec has met with Ian Parry from the Central Governance this week to discuss the timings and what they are able to undertake within a national lockdown as well, because obviously we are still in a lockdown at the important time. I think it's important to know that a scrutiny review would be best undertaken when the demands of the pandemic has slightly subsided. Obviously I can confirm we have now got and made an appointment of a new head of democratic services as well. And we have also just appointed a new deputy chief executive, which we're hoping to be in post within the next few weeks for them to also engage in that process. But it is on the chief exec's work plan, it is moving forwards, and I want all members to be involved in that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Sandal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question for Councillor Trollope-Bellew. I have been approached with concerns about Stamford Market traders not wearing face masks. Although they are outside, this new variant of COVID is much more contagious, and when a customer is being served, they are quite close. What is SKD's policy on this, please?
Thank you, Councillor Sandal, and I know that there has been concern at Stamford markets, but as you may know, it's not mandatory for people to wear face masks outside when shopping on our markets. It's just advisable as they're in the open air. But our market supervisor, Gary Taylor, has spoken with the traders and requesting that those who can do wear face coverings while they are attending customers. And this was actually agreed with the majority, and we will in fact be monitoring all our markets, but obviously I hope that everyone will be sensible and adhere to the social distancing and have the hand washing and wear the face covering, as I do myself when I'm out in the open. Thank you.
Thank you. That, I'll pass that information on.
Thank you. Councillor Whittington.
Madam Chairman, obviously at the present time with the COVID epidemic, it's really good that the vaccination process is being rolled out across the country, and I know we've got some vaccination centres locally within the SK area, and obviously being staffed by members of the health service and volunteers, but I've also, it's also been drawn to my attention that members of the SK operational teams have been also involved in the vaccination centres. I believe these teams come under the within the portfolio of Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley. So I'm just wondering if Peter could give us some indication of the level of support that the SK staff are offering to the vaccination centres at the present moment of time. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Whittington. Yes, you're absolutely right. SK is a big team. We've let some of our Mears Leisure Centre across to vaccination as a vaccination centre, but obviously, you know, we want people to be able to arrive and leave safely. We are in the middle of winter, and as you may have noticed, we had some considerable snowfall the other day, and it's been icy for several nights. So actually, our teams across the board, across the street scene, as well as our partners in Environment SK, have been assisting in making sure that all of our car parks are clean and salted regularly, so that the safety of people visiting our vaccination centres is as good as it can be. So I thank him for asking that question. Actually, it's something that often gets overlooked with that, and I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the teams that are working under very, very difficult circumstances, and having to add this to their already loaded work programme means them getting up extremely early in the morning to make sure that all of this is safe for everybody. So I'd like to thank the team for that. Thank you.
Woolley.
Thank you. Question to Callum, please. And it is a bit of a variation on a theme from the previous question. With around 17,000 people already having been jabbed, which includes all our the care homes in our area, would the leader agree with me that our health colleagues and all the volunteers are doing an absolutely fantastic job in rolling out the COVID vaccine to the residents in our area?
Well, thank you, Councillor Woolley, and I wholeheartedly agree with the comments that you've just made. I think the contribution that the NHS, the staff and everybody involved in the vaccination process has been superb. And if I can just give members a few of the statistics, actually, you know, in terms of doses, you know, nearly 50,000 doses of the vaccine have now been administered in Lincolnshire. And I think it's safe to say that Lincolnshire has really struck a chord in comparison to some of the other counties, actually. And out of, in England, just over 6.6 million doses have been administered, and over 1.2 million of those are in the Midlands. And I think for me, it is a positive message. And I know, you know, many of us now are starting to see our friends and our family also starting to receive the vaccine, which is really good news. Obviously, we did have the sad news of the number of deaths across the country since the pandemic first started, which is tragic. And I know we all send our thoughts and prayers to those who have lost loved ones and friends and family during this crisis. But on a local government term, and obviously I sit on the Lincolnshire Outbreak Engagement Board alongside all the other leaders across Lincolnshire, as well as the police and health. And I think I've never before seen the work and the integration and the communication across all the various bodies working to make this vaccine a success, and making it a success here in our district of South Kesteven. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phil Dilks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To Councillor Cork, during the Council's consideration of the damning Riverside report, which exposed how we left vulnerable and elderly residents without adequate heating or hot water for 4 years, it was noted that the Health and Safety Executive had intervened and issued a stop notice on the Council's work to remove asbestos from the Riverside flats, and that we were expecting the Health and Safety Executive to issue its notice of findings, including any sanctions, in December. Yet been received? Have we heard from them? And could you please update the Council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dilks. We are still yet to receive the Health and Safety Executive report into the Riverside. I'm happy to pass on to Councillor Reid if he feels he needs to speak, but otherwise we are expecting it in April, is what I'm being told by our Chief Executive.
Thank you.
If I may come in, Leader, and
yes.
Chairman, to say that our Leader is correct in his statement that we are expecting a report now at the earliest in April. Goodness knows why it's taking so long, but I'd also like to confirm to Council that any asbestos issues have been dealt with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley. With the storms and the flooding we've recently seen, what is the best advice for our residents that may be at risk of the rains continuing and flooding? What can we do to support our rural villages? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crawford, for the question. Yes, and in fact, last night, I think, certainly around here, the dikes were up again, the dikes were overflowing. It is an issue at the moment throughout the district, and it's especially so in some of our rural areas that often don't get looked at. The first point of call is with the Lincolnshire County Council. They are coordinating all flooding responses, and they will make sure that the right resources are passed through. In fact, our teams even today were instructed and resourced to deliver sandbags to Colsterworth to help out the fire brigade who were pumping out properties in that village. In the longer term, we used to provide some of our rural villages with sand and bags so that they could effectively help themselves when the floods did come, and if they did come. And that is something which we're now looking at, making sure that we encourage our parishes to take up, and also assisting them where necessary with developing their own flood warden and emergency planning protocols, so that these remote and rural villages can in some way help themselves. But I'm very thankful for the question, and I'm very conscious of the issues with regards to flooding, and I hope that nobody's been affected too badly, and I hope that the rains will soon recede. Let's put it that way. Thank you.
Thanks,
Councillor, sorry, could we have Councillor Steptoe, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could the Leader please confirm, or is he able to confirm, that the heating system at Riverside Flats in Grantham, much publicised obviously, are now fully operational at this moment in time? Furthermore, is any more compensation being considered for these poor people who have been let down time after time? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm happy for Councillor Reid to answer.
Thank you again, and thank you for the question. The Riverside heating has been upgraded and was completed before Christmas. There was a breakdown that happened over Christmas from a situation in the voids, which was dealt with. and the owing to COVID and indeed people's shielding, the upgrading the hot water systems have still got approximately 7 installations still to go to be complete. The compensation payment, it has been agreed, will run until the end of January, and that this will be made in by calculation as a means of a credit to their rent account, so it doesn't affect any benefits or any other forms of income.
Thank you.
Councillor Ashley Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question for the Chair of the Rural and Communities Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Ray Wootton. Since he took the chair of that committee, the Housing Department has had lots of problems. It has had no voids policy. It's had the Riverside report. It's had the other damning housing report last year, and we've only built 14 houses in the last 3, possibly far more years. Can I ask Councillor Wootton why he and his committee have not been holding the cabinet members' feet to the fire over these issues? Why is housing so poor, and why is it not being discussed properly at his scrutiny committee? Thank you.
Yes, much better.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chairman. First of all, I continue to hold each cabinet member to account, and also members of my committee do so as well. At each meeting, we've had various committee meetings over the years, and also every member is invited to come along and put their suggestions for future topics. And you might be interested to know, Councillor Baxter, that at the March meeting we have a representative from the Police and Crime Office attended that meeting. But as regard to the number of houses that we built, I think that is not a question that I can answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Councillor Fellows, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. It's a question for the leader, Councillor Cook. In the light of what I assume is new government proposals that require public consultation for the removal of statues, is the leader content that public consultation has happened prior to the proposed installation of the Margaret Thatcher statue? And if he is, could he please tell us what form that consultation took?
Thank you, Councillor Fellows. I think it's a bit late now. I think the plinth's already in place, and I'm sure the statue won't be too long later this year. In terms of consultation, obviously there was a planning application that came into the authority, and there was several responses to that. But aside from that, there has been no other consultation.
Exton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to Councillor Peter Mosley. It's regarding parking, in the residents' parking in Stamford. Have the council, in conjunction with Lincolnshire County Council, got any? It's all right. I've lost. Have they got any? It's all right. Apologies for this. Any plans to increase the parking for residents in Stamford, extra streets and extra roads in Stamford? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Exton. Currently, there's a residents' parking scheme in Stamford, and there are a set number of permits issued relating to the number of spaces that are perceived to be available. The number of permits does slightly exceed the number of spaces because it's anticipated that in fact not everybody will be using them all at the same time and the like. There is a process that can be followed if the scope of the permit scheme needs to be extended extended, but that's to do with the Lincolnshire County Council Highways policy. It is quite a lengthy process, but it is one which, if there is support locally for it, I'd be happy to help get the ball rolling with. If there's deemed a need. It does consist of an awful lot of surveys and consultations, and it is a relatively lengthy process. Once we reach the maximum number of permits that we could issue, we won't be issuing any more. Currently, there are 400 issued, and there is a waiting list, I believe, of 88 currently in Stamford. I hope that answers your question, and obviously if other Stamford councillors want to get in touch with me offline to perhaps look at this further, then I'm happy to meet. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for the Cabinet Member responsible for SK Leisure. In light of the new lockdown that's taking place, and the fact that that lockdown will continue at least until March, and in some respects probably after March in many ways, is there a plan at the moment to reconstitute a business plan for SK Leisure and bring that forward before any budget proposal is put? SK Leisure, clearly, it's the assumptions that were made in the business plan that we were given are now they're not correct as the situation has changed. And I would think that it would be urgently needed that we reconsider, well, we have to reconsider many financial aspects, but in particular SK Leisure, because it's been closed, it's closed the leisure centres down when we didn't anticipate them to be all closed down for the length of time it has. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Dobson to give a reply?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Knowles, for the question. It is a an unprecedented time. We didn't know this was coming, and we're in it, aren't we? All our business plans have been shot to smithereens, but we have got things going on. We are working on it. I've actually got Karen Whitfield, the officer, in the building, I think, or online. And I think she has something that she can tell us then what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks.
Right, thank you. Could I just stop you there, please? Could the Chief Executive come in? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can just add to what Councillor Dobson is actually saying there, we are revisiting the business plans, as Councillor Knowles said. The business plan that was presented to Companies Committee does need revisiting because that was predicated on facilities being open. Plans were in place for open the facilities from the 4th of January. The business plans are being revisited. They will then go back to the SK Leisure Limited board and then of course then come back through to Companies Committee. The board has met already twice to deal with a number of factors. One of those factors was the furloughing of the staff at Leisure SK Limited to minimise the financial impact on the company. So please be reassured that the business plans are being revisited and they will come back through the board and onto Companies Committee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. My question is to Councillor Cook, but before I say it, I just wanted to comment on Councillor Exton and Councillor Mosley's conversation about residents parking, because I've already started the process with a couple of streets in Stamford. So I'd be very happy to talk to Councillor Exton, but I think it might be really useful for Councillor Mosley if we could have a meeting for all the Stamford councillors, because there are a number of streets that would be interested in joining a residents parking scheme. Sorry, my question to Councillor Cook is on COVID testing and COVID vaccinations. I understand that the COVID testing in Stamford is only 4 days every fortnight. Would it be possible to have a timetable of when those 4 days are? Because I have been asked by residents. If there's a schedule, that would be really helpful. Is there any plan to increase the number of days? And the second thing is regarding COVID vaccinations. I understand there have been some problems at St Mary's Health Centre in terms of congestion and queuing. And I wondered whether the council had thought about using, say, Stamford Arts Centre while it's not being used, because there would be a more effective one-way system through there, and it's obviously more spacious than St Mary's. So those are my two questions, please, Councillor Cook. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for your question there. Obviously, in terms of the testing, obviously St Martin's Park is used on a fairly regular basis. We do just get informed about it though from the NHS. So I'm happy to pick up with our NHS leaders about how we might be able to increase the amount of testing within Stamford. Obviously, the St Mary's Medical Centre is being used as a medical building at the present time, but I'm happy to feed into the discussion about the possibility about other buildings in Stamford which might be better used for the COVID vaccinations. But certainly at the present time, it is to be used at the medical centre. But I'm happy to pick that up and come back to you.
Okay, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wonder if I might address my question to the leader. It follows on from the question by Councillor Amanda Wheeler. Some of my ward members have been to me and they have some concerns when receiving their COVID vaccine. I'm delighted that many of the projects that the council is involved in have been well organised. They, as older residents, had to attend the Stamford St Mary's practice where the parking wasn't organised. I know you might find it very boring, Chair, but these people were very worried. They could not...
Yes, can I just cut in? I go with you wholeheartedly. I've got a friend who suffered the same situation. I just can't believe how it is. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, thank you. The lady had to bring her husband, who's in the final stages of Parkinson's disease, to that centre to be vaccinated. The parking was so chaotic she dare not park there and tried to get him out to his wheelchair. She had to walk up to the large car park on Wharf Road, wheelchair down there, wait half an hour in the freezing weather last week outside, then wait half an hour in a marquee. Then her husband was taken inside because he was so cold to be warmed up for 20 minutes before he could receive his vaccine. I wonder if the leader could please see if he can do anything as a member of this Lincolnshire Outbreak Board to make sure that other providers who are being well paid for these services are providing a service which meets the needs of the people who require the service. They are now struggling to think how they are possibly going to go back and get a second vaccine from the same place. Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Chairman.
But not even. Oh.
No, sorry. No social distancing.
Yeah. No,
outside.
yes.
The medical team, fantastic. No social distancing.
Yeah. Or
very
masks.
Little hand sanitation. Crazy.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly, for that question. I am very sorry to hear about the distress experienced by a few of our residents there. Of course, I'll raise it through the Health Board and also raise it with the Director of Public Health. Chairman, if you may indulge me, might I introduce Councillor Sue Woolley, who's obviously involved in this from the County Council, to help respond.
Thanks very much indeed, Leader, and indeed Councillor Kelly. Absolutely hear the comments that you're making, and yes, it's quite right that the Leader takes these points forward to the lower board, the Outbreak Board. I too will make sure that I raise these issues with the CCG, who obviously oversee all the primary care and and particularly St Mary's, because there is no excuse for no social distancing or indeed any hand sanitizer, etc., etc. Can I just advise everyone that whilst we have these sites at the moment, all the time new sites will become available. So it might just be that the resident that Councillor Kelly refers to may not even need to go back to Stamford. They may be able to get it nearer to home. However, at the minute, to get everybody through, there are various sites, but it doesn't sound very good when even those basic safeguards aren't either being put in place or adhered to. So I will certainly take it up for you and I will report back.
Thank you very much for your response.
Is that it? Thank you very much indeed. Right, Councillor Bisnell, sorry, Councillor Bisnell Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had two questions. First one was to Dr. Mosley. Second one was to our leader, but I'll come back to it. Now, Councillor Mosley, I wonder if you could help in this. With regards to the recent flooding of the Stamford Meadows and eventually the bathroom, in the bathroom we have got three gates there, which have been fitted in a long time ago, and they were closed or that, but it looks the one that is at the end of bathroom, closer to the Kingsmill, the seals have perished, and that's the gates that actually let quite a lot of the water in. I wonder if it is if it is faulty, or it seems to be leaning. If that can be repaired, or which agency actually get that repaired. I wonder if you can leave that with you, because these things will happen again if which caused quite a lot of distress to some of the people, their property that nearly got flooded. My second one was to the leader, and it has already been quite nicely put by Councillor Kelly, Anna Kelly, with that. And it's just saying is every day the same thing is happening with regard to the COVID vaccination centre. There are two small tents in there, and in between there are people that standing. And a lot of people that got into the stand, the waiting tent, seems to be quite crowded. And I just wondered if probably externally if Councillor Cook can be involved in terms of probably have a proper social distancing instituted there. Thank you.
Shall I take mine first and then pass on to Callum, perhaps?
Yes, that'd be a good idea.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, the gates I think you're referring to, I would imagine they are the responsibility of the Environment Agency, who would be typically responsible for flood defences, and I believe that Gary Smith is listening in on this call. He'll make a note and make sure that we inform them of your concerns. And I think that's pretty much all we can do there. As I said before, Lincolnshire County Council are leading on flood response, so if there becomes an issue over the next few weeks with the amount of water and rainfall, etc., they would be the people to call in the first instance. But we'll pass on your concerns to the Environment Agency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, if I can just, obviously, Councillor Bisnath Singh has asked one question, and this session is following the Constitution. Only one question should be asked. I will, on this occasion, give a quick response, which is obviously along the lines of what Councillor Wheeler's response was, is that we'll pick it up with the lower board and with the CCG as well.
Thank you. Councillor Judy. Sorry. Thank you. Councillor Judy Stevens, please. And I think this is the last one.
Thanks very much. I have one of the positives of lockdown is that people are going for walks, and a number of people, particularly in Deeping St James, my ward, have come to me asking for litter pickers and so on, because they're concerned about the environment and they want to make it look as they can. And obviously with more people out walking, this is generating as well a little bit more litter. But by the same token, there are many people locally who want to make their village look as best as it possibly can. On that note, I'd like to ask a question of Councillor Peter Mosley. Are we going to this year have the best kept village competition reinstated? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Stevens. I mean, the Best Kept Village competition did run last year. It runs for the smaller villages, and I think maybe Deeping St James fills just outside the criteria for the smaller villages, but I'm always keen to look at options where we can, where we can encompass the towns as well. So I'd be keen to talk with Councillor Stevens about that. A few things to note. Litter, yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. And it's worth reiterating that members can always approach our street scene services manager, Clover Townhill, if they are organising a litter pick or want litter pickers and bags for for going about and making their places look tidy. And she will then arrange with you where you can put that litter so that it'll get picked up by our street scene team, so that we can keep our villages looking clean and tidy as possible. On another note, literally just to make people aware that obviously obviously our parks remain open, and I'd encourage everybody to use them and look after them as well, especially at this time. And particularly of note is some works that are going to be happening in Queen Elizabeth Park later on this year as part of the Blue-Green River project, where there's going to be a wetland created within that park, which should be very exciting to see. But yeah, I mean, Best Kept Village is still going to happen. Thank you.
Very much indeed for all the people who have answered the questions and for the people who have answered. So thank you very much. We now go on to agenda item 11, and 11A and 11B will not be taken due to Councillor Morgan being absent. So can we now go on to agenda item 11C, proposed by Phil Dilks?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As people can read, my motion is asking the Council to urgently refresh its practices and protocols to ensure that all future external reports are considered by either the full Council or a committee in a time at the earliest possible opportunity. I'm not on the Governance Committee, Madam Chairman, but on the 30th of November I did attend to listen to what we were going to do about the Damming Riverside report, which was finally being revealed to elected members 8 months after it was received by this council. We'd of course had the housing non-compliance report, which exposed the scandal that this council is failing to meet its most basic legal requirements to 6,000 tenants in terms of fire, gas, asbestos, Legionella and tests and protections. And I also mention the pre-COVID MACE report, looking into and what happened to that, looking into legislation, which cost this council £280,000, but has never come to any committee, and which I understand was largely rejected and another report commissioned. There does seem to be a culture, a pattern, Madam Chairman, when this council receives a difficult external report, to keep it deliberately secret, away from the gaze or scrutiny of elected members for as long as possible, and certainly until the leadership has worked up a damage limitation plan. So when the original report does finally emerge, they can say, as they do, oh, we've already dealt with that, look at all these lovely tick boxes that we've done. But in the first place, as we've seen in at least one of the reports, once they've got the plan together, it doesn't go to a scrutiny committee. The first place it goes is to a secret meeting of Conservative members to get them on side. Only then later does it go to an all-member private, again a private briefing for members, before eventually being allowed to come for a committee of just 7 members. So I'm at the governance report, the governance committee at the end of November, listening out for Riverside, and I notice also on the agenda there's something called a good governance report. It turns out this is an external report written by a former employee of this council, and another plan we get in response to it, showing what's been done about the recommendations in the report. 17 of them are in there, and again more tick boxes showing how many responses have been already completed. The report is dated the 5th of December 2019, but in the debate no one raises that, as if it's just normal practice that we have a report coming to us that's a year old. So I ask, why has it taken a year? And the first reason given is cancelled meetings because of COVID. But I've got to say, I've checked, and it wasn't even on the agenda of any of the cancelled meetings, not even on the work programme. But since the first lockdown, four governance committee meetings have actually been held before it was actually on the 5th meeting that had taken place since the arrival of that report. I'm then told it's because a number of the key 17 recommendations have been looked at and responded to, one of them being that we needed a corporate plan. But when council adopted that plan in the autumn, who knew that it actually originated in a recommendation in an external report that had never been to a council committee. Now, this clue to the remit of the governance committee, governance and audit committee, is in its name, but it turns out it wasn't it wasn't even the committee that had commissioned that report into governance. They were not even told that the leader of this council had decided to commission an external governance review in September 2019, and what it was going to cost and why it was by the person who actually did it. I just wonder. I'm sure no one has missed the absolute irony of an external report calling for an ongoing review of culture, of issues of culture, openness, transparency and accountability, and yes, collaboration. We have a report into all that, and yet it is kept secret from elected members for a year. It seems to me that the culture of this council, I'm sad to say, is that elected members of all parties, including the ruling group, are frankly treated with contempt. It has to stop. Please vote for my motion to get the first step towards openness, transparency, yes, and collaboration. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
So, is this working now? So, do we have a seconder for Councillor Dilk's motion?
Yes.
I'll second it, Madam Chairman. Yes.
Right. Is that Councillor Wood? Yeah. Right. I've got on here. I've got Councillor Cook to start.
Brilliant. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Dilks, for your proposal. I was slightly disappointed in some of the terms that you come out with, but not to worry. So in terms of the proposal, I am happy to support, and I know my own group will also be supporting the recommendations today. And I think if I can just cover some of the points that you've raised. So obviously the final Riverside report was received in March of 2020, and at this time, all the meetings were suspended due to the first national lockdown, last year, which obviously led to delays to both committee and to council. And it was intended that the director reported the report to the Rural and Communities OSC meeting in the September. And the delay after the period of time when the meetings were suspended were due to chasing and waiting for the HSE report to accompany that report as well. And once it had been confirmed that we weren't going to receive this report, the report was reported then to the next meeting. I mean, in respect to the delivery of good governance report, this was received by the council, but we were waiting for the new chief exec to start with the council until this report was to be presented. Obviously, within 14 days of our chief exec arriving, we did go into national lockdown. So the report was authored by Charlie Adan, and I think it's just very clear to make that Charlie worked for the council, I think it was 20 years ago in our accounting department, I think it was, before she's had quite a successful career as a local government chief exec. And I can say that the chair and vice chair of the Governance and Audit Committee did receive a copy of that report, and that includes your own group leader of Paul Wood, in July of last year. And as members are aware, that report was then used in the production throughout June and July in the development of our now adopted corporate plan. I am supporting the motion today. As I said, when I became leader, I wanted us to be more open. Obviously, we have questions, we go to cabinets, members are involved more in terms of how they engage in the democratic process, in terms of transparency and also collaboration. And I think I have a very good working relationship, particularly with Councillor Wood. I know we spoke about this earlier in the week. And of course, we are having our review into scrutiny to make sure that things aren't missed again. And I think it's important to note that scrutiny committees are cross-party. Yes, they might be chaired by the administration group, but there are representatives from all parties on these scrutiny committees to make sure they are effective. And I've always been a fan of good scrutiny. I've personally benefited from some of the schemes through the LGA on how to run good scrutiny. And I hope that we will continue on that journey. But otherwise, I'm very happy to support the motion today. And I encourage all of the council to as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Could I call Councillor Paul Wood, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, thank you, Councillor Dilks, for bringing this motion to the Council, and also Councillor Callum Cook for supporting it. I know we spoke about it earlier, and I appreciate that conversation. I appreciate, Councillor Cook, your support for these things. I think it is important, rather than going into the actual detail, I think it's important to say that any reports that are produced are brought forward and they are open and transparent. I think that's in everybody's benefit, so we can see what's happening. And as leader of the independent group, I don't see us there to oppose everything that the administration does. And I know things can go wrong, things will go wrong, and they do go wrong. But I think it's important to be open about it so we can share them and work together. My policy is really to work and try and solve things, not to cause problems. So thank you very much for the support, Councillor Cook. Thank you, Councillor Dilks, for bringing it forward. I would encourage all members, all independent members, and obviously the administration to vote for this so we can be more open and transparent. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Can I speak? Have Councillor Ashley Baxter to speak, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you also, Phil and Paul, for proposing and recommending this motion, and also thank you to Councillor Cook for agreeing that the Conservatives should support this motion. It's long overdue. You all know that I have a bugbear about transparency, openness and scrutiny. And these are good examples that Councillor Dilks puts forward. On the Riverside report, Councillor Reid, the council received the report in March. I've no idea why, but Councillor Reid said that he hadn't received it or hadn't got it until September, which is part of the reason why it didn't go to the September meeting of the Rural Communities Committee. Actually, Councillor Reid had received it in August, and there was no good reason, even in the absence of the person who wrote the report, there was no good reason why the Rural and Community Scrutiny Committee shouldn't have been appraised of the content of that report in September. Meanwhile, we have the council spent £250,000, £250,000 we spent on a report into leisure facilities, and I had to argue for a long time to get hold of a copy of that report, which I did eventually, although it was redacted. But that £250,000 report is still not in the public domain. It still not has been published. I haven't seen it, and really I don't know what we have to hide other than the £250,000 was, in my opinion, a waste of money. The Kratos report, on the other hand, the Kratos report, which was commissioned contrary to the ordinary procurement procedure, Kratos report into planning, has been presented, I think accidentally, to the Governance and Audit Committee. But the discussion of it, certain members have applied to the members of a planning committee only, as if there is some reason why other members of a committee shouldn't be able to discuss it. And I think that the discussion of a Kratos report should be in public meetings and should be open to all members, and indeed all members of the public. This is a sign of a wider problem, which I've mentioned before. We have council and scrutiny committees, but then we also have workshops, member working groups, task and finish groups, group meetings and member briefings, which are all behind closed doors. And then on top of that, after a recent meeting of the properly constituted budget scrutiny, the joint budget overview and scrutiny committee, we've been told by the council's monitoring officer that this thing, which is in the public domain, isn't actually a meeting at all. It is a consultative forum. This mess of scrutiny committees, consultative forums, workshops, members' briefings and task and finish groups needs straightening up. This is a job for the Constitution Committee, but a lot of it could be sorted out just by putting the whole thing into the public domain. And I asked Councillor Dobson if he will start that process today by publishing the Mace report, the one that cost £250,000, and putting it, redacted if necessary, into the public domain. I support Councillor Dilks' motion, and I welcome the Conservative support of it. Long overdue. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much indeed. All the members have spoken. So, Councillor Phil Dilks, would you like to sum up, please?
No, just thank everyone for the contributions. I could have said a lot more, Councillor Cook. I think I was quite measured in what I said, and I do stick by it. But I do welcome your support. I welcome the principle that we will at least, urgently refresh our practices and protocols. It's just not good enough to have reports that are a year old that basically don't see the light of day for a year. And as I say, it is particularly ironic that that one particular report should be talking about openness and transparency and collaboration and how we can improve those things. I'd just say, I don't want to take any more time up, Madam Chairman. I would just say thank you very much for everyone's support. I am sure that members of the ruling group will listen to their leader, and that members of my group will listen to our leader, and that it'll all be unanimous and we can all sing Kumbaya. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Could the monitoring officer speak, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to summarise then what it is you are voting on, it's the motion of Councillor Dilks as seconded by Councillor Paul Wood, and the motion is summarised in your papers. And if I can summarise, the motion is that in the interest of openness, transparency and collaboration, that the Council resolves to urgently refresh its practices and protocols to ensure that all such future external reports are considered either by the full Council or a committee of this Council as appropriate at the earliest opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
If the Chief Executive could explain.
Thank you, Chairman. As the motion's been put forward, proposed and seconded and just explained further by our monitoring officer, thank you, Shaheen, for doing that. Again, if you are in support, I will do this by exception. If you're in support of the motion, please do not put anything in the chat box unless you are against or abstaining from the vote, please. Madam Chairman, there are no abstentions and nobody's voting against the motion. Therefore, the motion is passed.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Now we go on to item 11D, again put forward by Councillor Dilks. If he would like to take this one forward to start this one.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think it has been dealt with earlier today. I do welcome the fact that following me putting in the motion that the item was included in the agenda for this meeting. It has been dealt with, I think. It was simply to resolving to adopt the concession as requested by the PCC at the earliest opportunity, and I think we've done that this afternoon, so I would say thank you very much. And I wouldn't withdraw the motion because I think we've actually agreed with it. So I don't know what the procedure is. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the monitoring officer then to take over and to explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Then I think it does amount to a withdrawal of the motion by Councillor Dilks, but we haven't had that seconded. If Councillor Dilks is no longer wishing to
Shaheen, Madam Chairman, I just want to, if I might be helpful, would it be helpful and in order if we actually have a formal vote on my motion, by exception, which wouldn't take any time? Because I think the council would accept it.
Do we need a seconder for that?
Yeah, yes, Madam Chairman. If that motion isn't withdrawn, then in the normal way that would need to be seconded.
I'm happy to second, Madam Chairman, in order to move the meeting on.
Right.
And then, Madam Chairman, the usual procedure is to invite any speakers and then to take a vote on the motion.
I'm happy not to speak on it, Madam Chairman. I think it's been dealt with, and I would actually say I move that we take the vote.
I'd second we move to the vote as well, Madam Chair.
Okay, then. So can we do that then, please? Yes.
Madam Chairman, if I can note that you do have somebody who's registered to speak, so in the true rule of debate, then that person should be able to speak on this motion, and that's Councillor Ian Selby.
Right. Okay. If Councillor Selby would like to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just be very brief. So, due to my lateness today, which I've apologised for, Madam Chairman, I'm pleased this motion is actually moving forward. It therefore gives me an opportunity to support it, whereas unfortunately I missed it earlier. So yeah, I'm happy to support this, Madam Chairman. So just being brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to the Chief Executive.
Therefore, Madam Chairman, if Councillor Selby has asked his question, then it does return then to Councillor Dilks if he does want to sum up before then I call for the vote.
Happy for the vote to be taken. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councillor Dilks. We've got a motion put in front of us with it that's contained in our council pack that's been published. If we can have, it's been proposed by Councillor Dilks and seconded by Councillor Cook. Therefore, they will go forward to vote by exception. All those against or abstaining, please note, please do so in the chat function. Those in support, please do not vote at this stage. Madam Chairman, it looks like there is nobody voting against or abstaining, therefore the motion is carried.
Thank you very much indeed. And now we go on to the final page, which says, that concludes the business for today's meeting. I would like to thank all the members for their cooperation. I'd also like to say thank you to those members of the public who joined us today. I look forward to seeing you all soon. I now declare the meeting closed. Once the recording